Even your emotion had an echo in so much space. When you out there without care, I was out of tune. But it wasn't because I didn't know, no. I just knew too much. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly. I hope that you're having the time of your life. Think twice. That's my only advice. Oh, who do you think you are? Oh, bless your soul. You think you're in control.
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. What is it? Still morning. It's half an hour before 12 o'clock. And you know, this is the life we live as vloggers and as they call us social media personalities. So this is part of the deal. You know, you deal with these things. And when they happen, you sort of roll with the punches. Let me begin, first of all, by saying I just got done watching Ruth Ronnie's live video. And guys, understand this. When somebody posts that they're going to say something about you, it's a good idea to watch that. So that whenever you do decide to rebut, you know what a rebuttal is? A rebuttal is when you do decide, if and when you do decide to respond, you know what you're talking about. Never respond when you don't know what was said, you don't know the spirit within which it was said, you don't know the context within which it was made. My point is, when somebody says they're going to talk about you, watch them so that when you respond, you know what you're talking about. I just watched Ruth Ronnie, and again, I found it very interesting and curious that she skirted around the whole issue except talking about what made her cry. Now, let's provide context. I've made it abundantly clear so that we're clear. The very first video I made in response to Ruth Ronnie, I came on here and I told you, I said, there's nothing wrong with crying online. And then I gave myself as an example. I said, I've been through that. I've cried twice online. But when I did that, I explained to my audience why I was doing that. That was my point. Initially, I was sympathetic towards her because, you know, being a social media personality, your audience, and I've said this before, and please forgive my repetitiveness, and there's truth in this, your audience provides you with some type of therapy when you are vulnerable with your audience. And I admitted to that. I told you that, you know, I'd gone through almost 20 years of fighting katas all the way from the MMD days. I've been fighting katas in this area since the MMD days. And that one particular video that I made concerning that issue, and it was a struggle for me. It was a problem for me. I looked at my age. I'm 53 years old. And in that moment, I began to ask myself, well, how much longer am I going to struggle with kada? So I became emotional and I cried. And then I explained to you exactly why I cried. I told you this. My advice to Rooney was simply that, look, we know you're going through a tough time. But, you know, if you're going to cry, share with your audience what it is. Unless you decide to cry within the solitude of yourself. If you don't want people to assume to come up with their own theories. They're going to assume the worst unless you decide to pull back the curtain, let the light come in, shed light on the issue, because by the very fact that you cried on social media says that there's something wrong and that there's something that you're yearning to share with your audience, and your audience wants to know that. But if you decide not to cry on camera, if you decide to remain traumatized in your closet at home with the cameras turned off, nobody's going to ask you, because nobody knows. What you don't know, you don't ask about. But the moment you make it public, it means then everybody wants to know. That was my point. All I was saying to her was, if you're going to do that, share with your audience. Then the following day, somebody said pretty much the same thing I said. Some lady said to her, well, if you're going to cry and if you're not going to share with the audience or with the people in front of you what you were crying about, then I think it's important to just, not involve the camera. Ruth Ronnie became furious and she insulted this woman. She spewed out the most unladylike, unpalatable language you've ever heard. Okay, she insulted this woman. Now, according to Ruth Ronnie today, she said she felt bullied by this girl that said, well, I don't think that you should have involved the camera. If you look at the girl's comment, the comment wasn't abrasive. The comment wasn't aggressive. Ruth Ronnie's response to that comment was very aggressive, was over the top, was very insulting. It was vulgar. It was putrid. And then I said, well, my sympathy for Ronnie has sort of waned and dissipated, because now she sounds like she's talking like a Chibolya thug. Now, I know this because I see Chibolya thugs here all the time. Insere shaba mu city market yumu. Nga padi bensele muno mu kyalo insele shifuma kuma cowboys, abama cowboys nama bus conductors, nama bus driver. Ni insele the whole day, every day. I hear that, and the moment she said that, in response to that comment, the moment Ruth Ronnie used those unpalatable, those putrid, those repulsive, those detrimental, diabolical words, I recognize that type of language instantly because I hear it. And my point was, a woman shouldn't speak like that. I'm old school, and I'm not going to apologize for that. I come from a generation that believes a woman should be comely. A woman should be beautiful and delicate. A woman should be womanly. Now, here's the thing. Ruth Ronnie turns around and says, no, Simon Mwera is misogynistic. He's a misogynist. Unbelievable. Now, for those of you that do not know, let me school you. A misogynist, basically, is a man that doesn't like women, a man that disdains women, a man that hates women. A woman hater is a misogynist. Ruth Ronnie turns around and says, no, Simon Mwera is a misogynist. Anytime you hear a woman use this word, in most cases, they are trying to deflect attention from the real issue. It's like a black person being arrested for a traffic violation, and then the black person turns around and says, oh, it's because I'm black. No, it's because of the traffic violation. This is very indicative of people that try to deflect attention from the real issue, deflect attention from the matter at hand, and then they try to move your attention from here and make you start talking about something else. The police officer didn't arrest you because you're black. He arrested you because of a traffic violation. No, it's because I'm black. So when we, as social media personalities, and there are many of us, okay, there is no one kingpin. There are many social media personalities. I've got a camera, lights, I've got internet, I've got data. I can turn on my phone, my DSLR, give you my opinion as I see it. When we, as social media influencers or personalities, when we sprinkle our opinion dust on your issue, it is wrong, it is disingenuous for you to turn around and say, oh, he's misogynistic. Oh, how convenient. That's very convenient for a woman in her position to call me misogynistic when she knows very well I'm not misogynistic. And then she makes reference to my video vlogging. She says he harasses women on the street. No, it's called content creation. It's called vlogging. There's a word for that. It's called street videotaping is defined as vlogging. You go to America, go to England. People vlog every day. Are they harassing women? No. Are they creating content that is relevant to our society today? Of course, there's some people that are abusing that privilege, but I'm certainly not one of them. 50 years from now, I keep telling you guys, and you will never understand this until I'm long gone. 50 years from now, all the videos, all the street videos I vlog, all the street videos I make when I walk up to people, hey, what's your name? What do you do? What sort of work do you do? Ruth Ronnie calls that harassment. I call it video content creation. We are creators. 50 years from now, many people are going to look back at those videos and say, oh, afipale karefi, afipale moneka papa Cairo, oh, so pale umbaro efi alipuapa. But if you're short-sighted, you don't see it like that. And so here it is. Ruth Ronnie conveniently calls me a misogynist when I am nowhere near misogynist. Just because we decide to correct you, just because a man corrects a woman, it doesn't mean that that man is a misogynist, which is what Rooney's trying to promote. Rooney's trying to create this idea. Mukanga Ntile, not Ronnie, that's not her name. Ruth Mukanga is trying to create this idea that a man cannot correct a woman when they're wrong. Also, notice how she decided not to say the word that she used because she knew she was wrong. She said, oh, I'm not going to say the word that I used when I insulted that woman. Well, the reason she said that is because deep down in her heart, she knew that she knew that that was wrong. And that was my point all along. There is no, listen, ladies, listen to me. Young women, listen to me. You don't have to use unpalatable language to get your point across. You don't. And then she said something that, and I knew, this is a complete lie. She said, I've heard Simon Ware use those words. You're lying. That's a 100% bald-faced lie. I do not insult. Everybody knows that. You look through any of my videos, I do not use profanity. I think the closest thing I ever said is hell. I think I say hell. What the hell? That's about it. But I don't insult. I don't use profanity. The reason I don't use profanity, and I shared this earlier today, and it's a true story. I mean, some of you may not like it, but that's the truth. You can't deny history. When I was a little boy, my dad said to me, a person insults. In Zambia, we say insult. A person swears. A person uses profanity. A person turns the air blue with profanity because he doesn't know how to express himself. In rapid succession, if they use the F word, F, it's because, and they're not saying anything. All they're saying is F. All they're saying is bam, 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 bam. All you hear them say are insult. They're not saying anything. They're just insulting. They're saying the same word. They're using the same word to try to make a point, but they're not saying anything. A person who uses profanity doesn't know how to express himself. So on that front, Ronnie was lying. She was lying when she said that I've heard Simon use that. I'll give you 10,000 kwacha if you pull up a video, any video, anywhere of me insulting anyone. I'll give you 10,000 right now. Right now, I'll do it. Okay. Well, I don't want to do that because, on social media, they'll be like, you're just showing off. But anyway, that's the point. So here it is. And lastly, let me give you some rubies. Okay. When Ruth Mukanga went live, a vast majority of her audience really wanted to hear why she was crying. They didn't tune in because of Simon Weil. I mean, who the heck am I? Okay. Nobody cares about Simon Weil in television. When she posted on there that, in 10 minutes, I'm going to go live and I'm going to address Simon. Nobody was thinking about me. What the people wanted to hear was they were hoping that on this live, she would reveal why she was crying. She didn't do that. She remained tight-lipped about that. She still didn't share why she cried, which still brings us back to the question, well, then why did you cry? Because during her live, I could see the comments, people saying, well, okay, fine, but why were you crying? Why? And then she started creating, well, it's got nothing to do, only a few people know what it is. Maybe one person knows, a few people. And I kept on thinking, well, just say what it is. It's either say what it is or don't talk about it at all. That is our point. And guys, let me give you a very important tip. I want you to listen to me very, very carefully. This is really, really important. When you have an audience, Ruth Ronnie, Ruth Mukanga, she had about 1,800 people watching her live. Do you know what she was doing? She was answering her phone. Hello. Urikui. Okay, untu minenga wise. All right. Okay, ngawafika fi walansanga. Kuisoko. Oh, 1,800 people. You have a captive audience of what? 1,800 people. Do you know how difficult it is to get 1,000? I hardly get 1,800. Even this 1,900 that are here, I hardly get them. The most I get is maybe 300, 400, 500. But when you have 1,800 people that are captively listening to you, and you're answering the phone, and you're talking about everything except the issue at hand, you know what that's saying? You disrespect your audience and you're wasting people's time. That's what it is. Your audience is your currency. Your audience is your currency. Use that opportunity to do something. The only thing that she did do that was half decent, although in my view was a bit misplaced, was where she says, well, vote for me for the Diamond TV. That can also come across as manipulative. That can also, it's very easy for people to jump on and say, well, you only built up that number so that you can ask them to vote for you. Do you see how delicate this is? Stick to the topic. Stick to the topic. Say what you need to say. Jump off. Don't get on there and start talking about. Nobody has time for that. And it's very, very disrespectful to your audience. Okay, so lastly, all I'm going to say here now is that when the dust settles and when the dew dries, Ruth Mukanga still hasn't shared with her audience why she cried. Okay, she hasn't done that, and that's up to her. But still, I think that if she's not going to say what it is, she shouldn't have been crying on camera. She should have just kept that on the down low. And lastly, her address to me was, in my view, was half baked. It wasn't very well thought out. She just turned on the camera and just started talking. She could have written down a few points. She could have made some salient points. She didn't do that. And then she tried to justify her insults, which is wrong. You can't justify that. It doesn't matter how much you try to cookie cut. You can't justify that type of language. And nobody is going to support you when you talk like that. Even if it's a man telling a woman, it's very convenient for you to call me misogynistic when you know in your heart you're wrong. All right. Thought I'd share that with you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.